Hello guys, now we are going to see classical masterpieces of the great world champions, and the first world champion that we are going to look at is the legendary Garry Kasparov. I'm a fan of him, so I wanted to start with Kasparov. So the first game we are going to see is Kasparov playing white and Palatnik playing black, and this game is a great example of Kasparov's combinational playing style. So the game goes e4, knight f6, e5, knight to d5. It is the Alekhines defense, and now d4, and now d6, and now knight f3, and g6, and bishop to c4, and knight b6, and now bishop to b3, and now black goes a5. This is the scheme often used by Odessa chess players, and it was not difficult for me and Nikitin to prepare a good continuation. And after, now a4, bishop g7, and now knight to g5 is played by Kasparov. And if at all black now plays d5, a well-known position arises with the inclusion of moves a4 and a5. And here Palatnik plays e6. He made this move without much thought. So this move is really confusing. I don't know what's the idea behind it. And now f4 by Kasparov, and this is a reasonable plan. Uh, there was nothing else to choose from. So now after de5 and fe5, now c5, now castles. This is the most natural and strong move. Now castles by black and c3 by white, and knight to c6. This is a positional error, after which white's initiative becomes threatening. It was here necessary to play cd4 and then only knight c6. Now guys, now is the from here Kasparov starts his plan of action, and I think you would have guessed the move. The move was knight to e4. This was an unpleasant surprise breaking black's plans. To prevent a fire on f6, they have to move a clumsy move, make a clumsy move, forgetting about counterplay in the center. So now black had to play knight to d7, so to avoid fire on f6, and so because if at all taking on this will lead to bishop g5, now queen to d7, queen to d7, and knight f6, bishop f6, and bishop f6, dc, and queen to c1 is coming. So here if at all the engine shows, after bishop g5, knight to e7, and now white can play cd4, and then h6, and then knight f6 check, Now I think king cannot move. If the king moves, then I think queen g4 is coming with the threat of queen h3 check. So that was the problem here. So king h8 is a mistake, so the knight has to be taken. Now the bishop takes, and I think white is having a very good position here. So then so that's why here taking on d4 is not good, it would be a mistake. So black played knight d7 to prevent fire on f6, and now bishop to e3, strengthening the center and preparing knight to a3 and b5 or even c4. Now knight to e7, bishop g5. So here this spin was unexpected by black, and to prevent it he has to weaken the king side. So now after the exchange on center, black played h6, and after bishop h4, now g5, and now bishop to f2, and now knight to g6, and here the engine is showing it was better to play knight f5, and now knight to knight b c3, and now queen to e7. So now bishop to c2, now b6, now bishop to e3, so every pieces are aiming towards the king. The king position is already weakened. So now bishop to a6, it's a late development. Now rook to f2, and then knight to h8. I think it would have been, if at all f5 is played, then ef6 is coming. Anyways, white is winning here. It is so it's already winning. So knight h8. So this was a mistake, and now the decisive move, bishop takes g5, h takes g5. Now queen h5 is coming. After queen h5, f5, black. It looked like black has established a defense, but it is of no use. Now knight takes g5 and is coming, and then black played rook to f7, and now again there was a sacrifice. There was this bishop sacrifice. After rook takes, now rook takes. Now then after the pawn takes, it was knight d5. So now there is only one square for the queen to find his salvation. That was queen to e8, and now queen h7 check, king to f8, and queen takes f5 check, and king to back to g8, queen h7 check, king f8, and now Rook is coming to a3. So the f1 square is defended by black. So now I'm sorry, rook to c8 by Palatnik, and now rook to f3 check, knight f6, now h3, now queen to g6, now rook takes f6 check, bishop takes f6, and now knight to e6 check, and king e8, and then now knight takes f6, and here Palatnik froze for a moment, so that there was nowhere to go further, and he resigned finally. And guys, I hope you would have found this game very useful, and it was in a combinational, the game finished in a combinational style as usual by Kasparov. So guys, I'll be meeting you in the next game by Kasparov. So thank you all.